If you're still waiting to feel motivated, you've already lost. Winners don't wait for inspiration. They act without it, because success doesn't respond to feelings, it responds to discipline. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants the results, the breakthrough, the applause, the respect. But here's the hard truth most people will never tell Yug. If you're waiting for motivation to show up first, you've already lost the battle. Because motivation is not loyal. It's a feeling. And feelings are liars. They come when life is easy and vanish when life gets hard. They cheer you on when you're winning and disappear when you're struggling. If motivation is your fuel, you'll stall the second things get inconvenient. You don't need more motivation. You need discipline. You need clarity. You need a reason that runs deeper than how you feel. The world has created this illusion that the key to progress is waking up inspired, that you need to feel like it before you act. Motivation is exciting, but it's unreliable. It's the spark that gets you started, but it rarely stays lit. It shows up when the circumstances are ideal. When you're well rested, when you're inspired, when the path ahead looks clear. But life doesn't give you those conditions every day. Most days, you'll wake up tired, distracted, overwhelmed, or uncertain. And on those days, motivation won't even answer the phone. That's where most people give up. They assume the lack of motivation means they're not meant to continue. They think, if I don't feel like it, maybe I shouldn't do it. That mindset is why dreams die unfinished. Discipline tells a different story. Discipline doesn't care about how you feel in the moment. It cares about who you said you wanted to become. It shows up regardless of mood, energy, or inspiration. Discipline isn't flashy. It doesn't need a motivational playlist or a perfect sunrise. It just needs a reason, a commitment, a non-negotiable standard. Where motivation fades, discipline remains. It's not driven by excitement. It's driven by alignment. Alignment with your values, with your goals, with your identity. The truth is, the gap between where you are and where you want to be will not be crossed by waiting for motivation to show up. That gap gets closed by doing the work over and over with or without the feeling. That's what discipline does. It builds your character. It strengthens your mind. It teaches you to become dependable, not just to others, but to yourself. And when you know you can rely on yourself, even on the hard days, you become unstoppable. People who rely on motivation start strong and fizzle out. People who rely on discipline build systems, habits, and a mindset that lasts through the highs and the lows. Motivation feels good. Discipline does good. It's not about energy. It's about ownership. Discipline means showing up even when it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, or unpopular because your purpose demands it. When others are waiting for the perfect moment, the disciplined are already in motion. They're not waiting to feel ready. They're not hoping for inspiration. They're moving forward because they've decided that who they want to become is more important than how they feel today. Most people have great intentions. They talk about goals, write down visions, get excited about change. But then they hit a wall, and that wall isn't failure. It's a feeling. The feeling of not wanting to do the hard thing today. The feeling of fatigue, distraction, or discomfort. And that's where everything begins to unravel. Because when your actions are tied to your emotions, your progress becomes stable. If you only move when you feel like it, you'll never build anything that lasts. Emotions are temporary. They shift with your environment, your energy levels, your circumstances. If you let them lead, your life becomes unpredictable. One day you're consistent. The next day you disappear. One week you're on fire. The next week you're full of excuses. That inconsistency is the silent killer of progress. Because while you're negotiating with yourself, someone else is out there building. Not because they feel like it, but because they decided to. Decisions build discipline, and discipline builds results. Showing up when it's boring, when it's uncomfortable, when it's inconvenient. That's what separates the successful from the spectators. The reality is, anyone can do the right thing when it's easy. The real test is whether you can do it when it's not. And if you only act when the stars align, you'll spend your life waiting instead of moving. The gym session that you skip because you weren't feeling it. Feel it. That's the one that builds grit. The cold call you avoid because your confidence is low. That's the one that could open the next door. The early morning you sleep through because your bed is warm. That's the moment you missed to sharpen your edge. It's in those uncomfortable choices where real progress is made. And that kind of consistency only comes from commitment, not emotion. Success isn't about intensity once in a while. It's about showing even up when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because each time you act without needing to feel motivated, you train your mind to follow through. You build trust with yourself. You stop being a slave to your emotions and start becoming a master of your habits. That's how real momentum is created. Not from hype, but from discipline in the moments where you least feel like it. Your mood will lie to you. It will tell you to hit snooze when you said you'd wake up early. It will tell you to skip the workout, the meeting, the discipline, all in the name of not feeling it. And if you let your mood dictate your actions, your life will always be unpredictable. You'll move in circles, stuck in a loop of short-term emotion instead of long-term purpose. That's why your mission must be stronger than your mood. When you operate from mission, you move with direction. You have something bigger guiding you, not a fleeting feeling, but a deep sense of why. A mission doesn't depend on how your day started or what the weather looks like. It doesn't ask for motivation. It demands action. That's what anchors you when things get hard. That's what keeps you on track when distractions come, when stress shows up, when your energy dips. Because when your why is clear, your how gets consistent. Mission brings clarity. It reminds you that the work you're doing isn't just about today. It's about who you're becoming. It's about impact, not just results. Purpose, not just productivity. And that clarity gives you power. It becomes your internal compass when your emotions are pulling you in every direction. When the excitement fades, when the pressure builds, when nothing goes according to plan, your mission holds the line. The difference between amateurs and professionals is this: amateurs rely on inspiration. Professionals rely on intention. They wake up and do the work not because they feel like it every day, but because they're driven by a mission that doesn't clock in and out. That mission gives them endurance. It keeps them locked in when others are drifting, focused when others are distracted, disciplined when others are discouraged. The truth is, your mood will always try to shrink your standards. It will negotiate with your greatness. It will convince you to choose ease over excellence. But when your mission leads the way, it becomes non-negotiable. You stop asking, do I feel like it? and start asking, does this serve my mission? That shift from mood to mission changes everything. It gives your life structure, your choices meaning, and your grind purpose. Because now you're not just doing tasks, you're building something bigger than yourself. There's a misconception that success comes from doing something huge, something explosive, something dramatic. We've been conditioned to believe that one big push will change everything. But our growth doesn't work like that. Real transformation isn't about intensity a once in a while. It's about consistency every single day. It's about showing up, not just when it's convenient or exciting, but especially when it's ordinary, mundane, and repetitive. That's where the real work is done. Intensity is seductive. It makes you feel like you're doing something big, like you're on fire. You can sprint for a few days, go all in on a new habit for a week, push hard with bursts of passion. But what happens when that fire fades? What happens when motivation disappears and the high wears off? Most people burn out because they were relying on passion without building a system for perseverance. Consistency is the quiet power most people ignore. It doesn't get attention because it's not flashy. No one claps for showing up on time. No one celebrates another day of discipline. But those small daily decisions, that's where confidence is built. That's where momentum is created. That's where goals start turning into reality. Not through explosive effort, but through quiet repetition. If you work hard once in a while, you might feel good. But if you work consistently over time, you change. Your habits evolve. Your mindset sharpens. You stop needing emotional highs to keep going because your actions are tied to identity, not impulse. That's the secret behind every elite performer, every great leader, every consistent winner. They master the art of doing the boring stuff without letting boredom stop them. Think of a bricklayer. One brick doesn't build a wall, but laying one brick every day with focus, precision, and patience over time creates something unshakable. That's what consistency does. It builds your future one decision at a time. You may not see the reward today. You may not feel the result this week. But over time, the compound effect takes over. You become the kind of person who doesn't just chase success. You embody it. Not because of one moment of intensity, but because of thousands of moments when you refused to quit, even when no one was watching. There's a moment in every journey where you realize the motivation you've been chasing won't carry you any further. You've read the quotes. You've watched the speeches. You've listened to the podcasts. And yet, there's still something missing. There's still something. That's because consuming motivation is not the same as creating momentum. At some point, you have to stop looking outward for fire and start becoming the source of it yourself. You have to stop depending on others to remind you of your power and start being the one who acts like they already know it. The people who make the biggest impact aren't the ones who keep searching for more inspiration. They're the ones who become inspiration. They're not driven by external hype. They're grounded in internal clarity. They don't wait for a feeling to push them. They rely on the discipline they've built when no one was clapping. That shift from consumer to creator is where true change happens. When you stop looking for someone to motivate you, you stop outsourcing responsibility for your life. You begin to understand that no one is coming to rescue you. No one is going to do the work for you. And no one has to believe in you more than you believe in yourself. That realization is uncomfortable, but it's also liberating. Because now you get to lead yourself. You get to rise on your own command. You become accountable not just to your goals, but to your standard. Think about the leaders you admire, the ones who push forward when others fall back, the ones who speak with conviction, who move with clarity, who show up with discipline. Do you think they always feel motivated? Of course not. They've simply mastered the habit of showing up anyway. They've trained themselves to act on commitment, not emotion. They've become their own source of fire. And that's what you're called to do. To become the person others look to, not because you shout the loudest, but because you live the truth. You execute with consistency. You lead with action. You hold yourself to a higher standard when no one's watching. The goal is no longer to be motivated. The goal is to be unshakable, to live in such a way that your life speaks louder than any quote ever could. In a world obsessed with results, people often forget where real growth begins. In the process, everyone wants the outcome, the applause, the recognition. They want the transformation, the freedom, the success. But few are willing to embrace the unglamorous process that leads there. the daily grind, the small steps, the quiet sacrifices. That's where the real transformation happens. Not when you arrive, but when you choose to keep going even when the destination feels far away. The process isn't exciting. It doesn't give you instant feedback. It doesn't promise quick wins. It tests your patience, stretches your limits, and reveals your character. And most people quit not because they don't have the talent, but because they can't stay focused without the dopamine of results. They mistake slow progress for failure. They think if the results aren't visible, the effort isn't worth it. But that's the biggest lie, because everything meaningful takes time, and everything lasting is built beneath the surface long before it's visible to the world. Growth happens in obscurity. It happens when no one's watching. It happens when you show up at 5 a.m., when no one's clapping, when you stay late without anyone noticing, when you keep your word to yourself even when no one's there to hold you accountable. That's the grind most people never see, and that's why they underestimate what it truly takes to grow. If you can learn to fall in love with the process, the hard, slow, uncomfortable process, you become dangerous, because now you're not chasing rewards. You're focused on mastery. You're not driven by validation. You're driven by purpose. And that kind of mindset creates results that are deeper, stronger, and far more sustainable. The process becomes your training ground. It's where you build grit, endurance, humility, and hunger. It's where you stop performing and start transforming. Don't overlook the quiet days. Don't despise the slow seasons. That's where you're building the kind of foundation that won't crumble under pressure. Because when the spotlight finally hits you, it'll be too late to prepare. You either built it in the dark or you didn't. And the only way to build it is to keep showing up, keep doing the work, and keep trusting the process, even when the results aren't immediate. A comment, belong. I move without motivation. Like, if you're done waiting and ready to work. A subscribe if you're building a future powered by discipline, not emotion.